12 when Dad won full custody of me and my little brother Zeke. He told the court Mom was unstable, said he'd give us a better life. 2 weeks later, he dropped us off at Aunt Lila's place in Grayford, Texas, then left for deployment. What he didn't say in court, that Lila was a mean drunk who hated kids and hit harder when we flinched. Zeke had type 1 diabetes. He needed insulin at 6 p.m. every single day. Lila was usually passed out by 2. I tried to step in, but I was a kid with Google and fear. Zeke got sicker, dizzy, shaky, vomiting nonstop. Lila said he was acting weak. We stopped eating regularly. Our clothes got dirtier. I got used to telling lies at school and to the neighbors. She works late. She's tired. She's doing her best. But people aren't blind. Sandwiches started showing up on our porch. Someone called child services. That's when caseworker Dana showed up. Zeke was pale, trembling. Dana asked if we were okay. I looked at him, then nodded. She's fine, I lied. A week later, Dad came home on emergency leave. Full camo, dog tags, salute ready. Dana tried to raise concerns, but Dad cut her off. My sister raised me. I trust her. Dana folded like paper, thanked him for his service. And just like that, she was gone. Before he left again, he pulled me aside. If you lie about Lila again, he warned, you'll regret it. She made me a man. Time she toughened you up too. It got worse. 3 days without insulin. Zeke's skin turned gray. He stopped talking. His breathing, shallow and wrong. I held him on the couch, whispering, please stay with me. Then I called 911. At the hospital, the doctor said he was in diabetic ketoacidosis. A few more hours and he wouldn't have woken up. That's when Marisol showed up, a new social worker. She didn't thank anyone for their service. Didn't back down. She saw the charts, the history, the bruises. This is criminal neglect, she said. I'm filing with the judge today. Dad flew home again. Stormed into the hospital, all boots and rage. He demanded to see Zeke. Ignored Marisol. Tried to play hero with the doctor. But it didn't work. The doctor told him point blank. Your son was hours from death. This wasn't an accident. It was systemic neglect. Dad turned to me, his voice low and sharp. Tell them how well Lila takes care of you. I looked at Zeke, still unconscious, and then at Marisol. My voice cracked. Grandma drinks a lot. The room went silent. Dad's face went purple. You don't know what you're saying. But Marisol stepped between us. Let him speak. I couldn't say anything else. My throat felt like it was closing up. Dad's stare pinned me in place, like he was carving the consequences into my bones. Talk about pulling the I served my country card faster than a magician with a rabbit. Except instead of making problems disappear, he just made everyone uncomfortable. While Zeke was hooked up to more machines than a gaming rig, Dr. Patel stepped in. I think we should let Zeke rest. Mr. Thompson, visiting hours are ending. I'm not leaving my son, Dad said flatly. Maria didn't flinch. Given the circumstances, it's best the children have some space. She took out her phone. I can call security if needed. Dad's jaw clenched. Then he smiled, but it never reached his eyes. Fine, but this isn't over. I'll see you in court tomorrow. Let's see what a judge thinks about someone trying to tear apart a military family. He turned back at the door. I'm staying at Lila's tonight. We have a lot to discuss. When he left, my whole body started shaking. Maria sat beside me and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, she said softly. I know that was hard. He's going to call me, I whispered. No, he's not. You're not going back there. I've arranged emergency placement. You'll stay somewhere safe tonight. Dr. Patel checked Zeke's monitors. His blood sugar's stabilizing. He should wake up soon, but he'll need consistent care going forward. No more missed doses. Tears burned my eyes. I tried. I really tried. I just didn't know how to use the insulin pen right. And Lila would get mad if I even touched her stuff. This is not your fault, Dr. Patel said, firm and kind. You're 12. You shouldn't be managing your brother's medical care. Maria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. Your dad just called my supervisor. Said I'm discriminating against him because of his military service. Will that work? I asked. No. The medical records are too strong. But he's going to fight. Hard. She leaned forward. I need you to be ready for court tomorrow. The judge will want to hear from you. I can't testify against Dad. He'll never forgive me. You won't be testifying against him, she said. You'll be telling the truth about what happened to Zeke. There's a difference. But I knew Dad wouldn't see it that way. To him, loyalty meant silence. Breaking that code? That was betrayal. Then I heard a soft groan. Zeke's eyes fluttered open. Where am I? I rushed to his side and grabbed his hand. You're in the hospital. You got really sick, but you're okay now. He looked around, dazed. My head hurts. Dr. Patel leaned over to check his pupils. That's normal, Zeke. You were very sick, but you're getting better. Where's Aunt Lila? He mumbled. She's at home, I said gently. Good, he whispered. She was really mad about something. I don't remember what. Maria wrote that down. Every detail mattered now. Later, Maria took me to the emergency placement, a foster home about 20 minutes from the hospital. The Johnsons were kind. Quiet house, smelled like vanilla candles. Mrs. Johnson showed me a small bedroom with a twin bed and a desk. The bathroom's down the hall. Clean towels in the closet, she said. Are you hungry? I shook my head. I hadn't eaten all day, but my stomach was a knot. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. They were still trembling. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad's face in the hospital. How fast it went from fake charm to barely contained fury. I knew he was already working on his next move. The next morning, Mrs. Johnson drove me to the courthouse. It was tall, cold, and ancient looking, like it had never once cared about a kid. Maria met me inside, briefcase in hand. How's Zeke? I asked. Still in the hospital, she said. But better. Dr. Patel's testifying by phone. She led me down a long hallway toward a future I still wasn't sure I could face. The hearing was in family court. Maria said it was less formal than criminal court, but I still had to tell the truth. We stepped into a wood-paneled room with humming fluorescent lights. Dad was already there, sitting stiffly at a table beside a man in a suit. His lawyer, I guessed. Lila sat behind them in the gallery, dressed in something that looked like it hadn't seen a liquor stain in months. She looked sober, serious, rehearsed. Dad looked sharp, too. Uniform pressed, face clean-shaven, boots shined like mirrors. He looked every inch the perfect soldier. The kind of man people want to believe. He didn't look at me. We took our seats at the opposite table as the judge walked in, an older black woman with short gray hair and glasses. She scanned the papers in front of her. This is an emergency hearing regarding custody of 2 minor children, she said. I've reviewed the petition and medical records. Let's start with the social worker's report. Maria stood, calm, professional. She laid out everything. Missed insulin doses, multiple hospitalizations, the photos of Lila's house, moldy food, empty fridge, vodka bottles tucked behind furniture. She described Zeke's condition when he arrived at the hospital. Every detail landed like a blow. Dad's lawyer kept objecting, unauthorized photographs, biased interpretations, a coordinated attack on a military family, but the judge overruled most of it. Then it was Dad's turn. And just like that, he flipped the switch. Gone was the storm from the hospital. In his place stood a tired, noble father doing his best under impossible pressure. Your Honor, I've served 3 tours in Iraq. I've sacrificed everything for this country, and for my children, he said. When their mother proved unfit, I fought for custody because I wanted to give them stability. I trusted my own mother, the woman who raised me, to care for them while I fulfilled my duty. He spoke about how hard military life was, about civilians who just don't understand. He mentioned his medals, his commendations, his spotless record. Then Lila spoke. Her voice didn't shake. She said she loved us, that she did her best despite some health issues. Claimed she might have forgotten things occasionally, but never drank around us. The vodka bottles? Old. From before we moved in. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly, legs like wet spaghetti. The judge gave me a kind smile. Just tell the truth, son. That's all we need. Dad's lawyer started soft. Name, age, how long I'd lived with Lila. Then he got sharper. Has your grandmother ever hurt you? I looked at Dad. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held the same silent threat I'd known my whole life. Sometimes she gets upset, I said. That's not what I asked. Has she hurt you? My hands clenched around the edge of the witness box. Yes. Can you be more specific? I described a few incidents. Nothing dramatic, just the truth. His lawyer tried to paint me as confused, or sensitive, or exaggerating. But Maria had warned me about this. I stuck to the facts. Then he shifted gears. What about your father? How does he treat you? I felt like I was standing on a frozen lake, and every word was a crack in the ice. He has high expectations, I said carefully. Does he love you? Yes. Does he want what's best for you? I hesitated. The judge leaned in. He wants us to be strong, I said finally. He thinks Lila's house makes us strong. The lawyer kept going, but I'd found my footing. I kept my answers honest, cautious, steady. Then Dr. Patel testified by phone. Her voice crackled through the speaker, blunt and clinical. She listed terms I didn't understand. A1C, blood glucose spikes, DKA, but her message was simple. Zeke nearly died, and he wouldn't survive another stretch under Lila's care. The judge turned to Dad. What about the medical neglect, Mr. Thompson? He didn't miss a beat. My mother's aging, he said. I've been trying to get her help, looking into support services. But military systems move slow. I had no idea things were this bad. The judge raised an eyebrow. Your son tried to tell a social worker weeks ago, she said. Dad didn't blink. Kids act out when they miss their parents. My deployment's been hard on them. They exaggerate for attention. The hearing dragged on for hours. Back and forth. Evidence, objections, arguments. Through it all, I watched Dad perform. Shifting gears like a pro, devoted father, wounded soldier, victim of a broken system. He played every angle. Then the judge called a recess. In the hallway, Maria paced, whispering to her supervisor. Dad huddled with his lawyer. Lila sat on a bench, suddenly small, fragile, sober. It was like everyone had a script but me. When we returned, the judge's voice was firm. This is a difficult case, she began. On one hand, we have a father who served his country. On the other, we have documented, life-threatening neglect. My chest tightened. The court finds that returning the children to their grandmother's care would pose an immediate risk to their health and safety. She paused, like we were in the finale of a reality show. Temporary custody is granted to the Department of Children's Services, pending a full investigation. Dad stood up fast. This is wrong. These are my children. Sit down, Mr. Thompson, the judge snapped, or I'll hold you in contempt. She set the next hearing for 3 months out. Gave him time to find a plan that didn't include Lila. As we left, Dad grabbed my arm. This isn't over, he whispered. You're still my son. Don't forget that. Maria guided me away, but I felt his eyes burning into my back. Back at the Johnson's house, I couldn't eat the sandwich Mrs. Johnson made. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every time a car passed, I flinched. I knew Dad's playbook. Start nice, then pressure, then break them down. That night, it started. Mr. Johnson answered a knock. I crept to the stairs and froze. Dad's voice, calm, friendly. Just wanted to check on my boy, he said. Mr. Johnson told him visits had to go through Maria. Dad nodded, all polite, all smiles. After he left, I was still curled up on the stairs. Mrs. Johnson sat with me until I could breathe again. The next morning, Maria called. Dad had filed a complaint against her, said she was biased against military families. He also reported the Johnsons, claiming they were turning me against him. She tried to sound confident, but I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. At the hospital, Zeke was getting better. I sat with him while he ate crackers and jello. He asked about Lila again. She's sick, I said. She can't come visit. Dr. Patel taught me how to use the insulin pen properly. I tried figuring it out myself at Lila's, Googling stuff, guessing doses. Now I finally understood how dangerous that was. 3 days in, Dad showed up during one of my visits. Full dress uniform, shiny medals, charmer mode. He brought Zeke a teddy bear. Me? A book about military heroes. He chatted up the nurses like they were old friends, asked about Zeke's progress, thanked them for their dedication. He pulled me aside near the vending machines. His grip looked gentle. It wasn't. You could fix all this, he said quietly. Tell them you lied. Tell them it wasn't that bad. Be loyal. When Maria arrived for her visit, he was sitting by Zeke's bed reading him a story. Picture perfect. That night, the Johnsons' phone rang off the hook. Hang-ups. Then calls from Dad's friends, military guys, saying what a good man he was. One even said I was a bitter kid brainwashing my foster family. And it kept getting worse. Dad filed a formal military complaint, accused Maria of harassment, launched a social media campaign, posting pics in uniform, talking about a father fighting for his kids while serving his country. Thousands of comments poured in. All support. At school, recruiters showed up, talked about honor, loyalty. One even said, it's sad when a child betrays their own blood. And everywhere I went, Dad was there. At the store when Mrs. Johnson took me shopping. Parked across the street from school. In the hospital cafeteria while I visited Zeke. Never close enough to break the law. Just close enough to remind me. He was still watching. The pressure was working. The Johnsons started getting anonymous complaints. Maria was being dragged into meetings. I could feel it. Dad was tightening the noose. Even Dr. Patel got targeted. Someone reported her for exaggerating Zeke's condition. Claimed she was anti-military. Then, 2 weeks before the final custody hearing, Dad made his boldest move yet. He went on the news. Local station. Prime time. Sitting in a spotless apartment surrounded by medals and framed family photos, he talked about sacrifice, service, and how the system was punishing him for defending his country. Not once did he mention Zeke's coma. Not a word about Lila or the insulin. He painted himself as a hero. And me? The ungrateful son. Maria's office got slammed with angry calls. The Johnsons found notes on their windshield. Traitor. Un-American. Support our troops. Someone spray-painted their garage. Zeke was still in the hospital. His blood sugar would spike every time Dad visited. Dr. Patel started tracking it. Every time Dad walked in, Zeke's numbers jumped. Dad didn't care. He brought in his own specialist, said Zeke's stress came from being separated from family. The pressure at the foster home got worse. Someone called Mr. Johnson's job, claimed he was harboring a brainwashed kid. Mrs. Johnson found her tires slashed. They didn't say anything to me, but I saw it. How tired they looked. How quiet the house had gotten. Dad's lawyers started flooding the court with letters, demanding more visitation, accusing Maria of coaching me, claiming this was discrimination against a veteran. He even looped in military advocacy groups. That's when I made a decision. I started writing everything down. Everything I could remember about living with Lila. The empty insulin vials. The times I couldn't wake her. The bruises we covered with long sleeves. Dates. Times. What I saw. What I did. What I couldn't do. Maria helped me submit it to the court. Dad's lawyer attacked it instantly. Said I'd been coached. Called the timing suspicious. Demanded handwriting analysis, psychological evaluations. That evaluation was brutal. The court psychologist asked everything. Dad, Lila mom. I knew Dad would see that report, so I walked a tightrope. Protect Zeke without making Dad furious. Honest, but careful. The psychologist noted how I downplayed everything. How I took on too much responsibility. Called it hypervigilance, a survival skill kids learn when the adults don't show up. Dad's lawyer spun it as proof I'd been groomed. Then it all focused on Zeke. Dad's expert said old people mess up meds all the time. That diabetes is complicated. That hospitals make everyone healthier anyway. But Dr. Patel hit back hard. Brought charts, data, Zeke's logs, showed the exact days he crashed, showed how close he came to dying. Still, Dad's team pushed their version. The public ate it up. A veterans group started a petition, reunite this family. Rallies outside the courthouse. Flags, signs, support military parents. Zeke's blood sugar spiked every time Dad walked into a room. It was like his body was filing its own custody complaint. Even politicians started chiming in. Careful, of course. No one wanted to seem anti-veteran. Then someone threw a rock through the Johnsons' window. A note attached. Traitors. Destroyers of families. Police came. Took a report. But no cameras. No witnesses. Nothing they could do. I overheard Mr. Johnson asking his wife if they could keep fostering me. She didn't answer. Then Dad took it even further. He started appearing in military magazines. Gave interviews about missing birthdays and sacrificing holidays. Said all he wanted was to come home to his kids. The narrative shifted fast. It wasn't about Zeke's insulin anymore. It was about how America failed its heroes. Maria was drowning. Her supervisor assigned someone else to monitor the case. Dad's lawyer dug up one of her old removals from years ago, another veteran family. At school, things turned icy. Word got out. Kids avoided me. Or worse, called me ungrateful. You hate your dad? One asked in class. A substitute made a comment about kids who didn't appreciate their parents' sacrifice. The Johnsons tried to protect me, but I could see the cracks. They'd fostered dozens of kids before me, but I could tell. I was the one breaking them. The Johnsons had fostered dozens of kids over the years, but they'd never faced this. Mrs. Johnson started having panic attacks. Mr. Johnson installed security cameras after someone kept tipping over their trash and leaving footprints outside the windows. 5 weeks into foster care, Dad played his final card. He announced he was retiring from the military to focus on his kids. He held a press conference at the local VFW, surrounded by veterans and flags. Said he was choosing fatherhood over service. The ultimate sacrifice. He even showed off a new job offer at a private security firm. Proof that he could now offer stable employment. It changed everything. The main reason they hadn't returned us to him before was his deployments. Now, that reason was gone. The veterans groups rallied even harder. Zeke got released from the hospital, but not to me. He was placed in a specialized medical foster home. Dad's lawyer argued my presence could coach Zeke into saying things against his father. So now I only got supervised visits. During them, Zeke seemed lost, like he didn't even know where home was anymore. Every time I saw him, he asked when we could go back, but he didn't say back to where. The custody hearing loomed. Dad's lawyer filed nonstop motions. He wanted every email Maria had sent, every document, every record. He was building a case that the entire system had ganged up on a decorated war hero. Maria fought back. She collected statements from neighbors, compiled medical histories, outlined Dad's intimidation tactics. But for every piece of truth, Dad's team had a story. The weekend before court, Dad staged a candlelight vigil, called it a prayer gathering for separated military families. Hundreds showed up. It made the evening news. He talked about healing, forgiveness, getting counseling. He said he was ready to be a better father. I watched from the Johnsons' living room, stomach in knots. On TV, he looked like a hero trying to fix a broken system. Mrs. Johnson sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. Truth has a way of surfacing, she whispered. But even she looked uncertain. The night before court, I barely slept. I kept seeing Zeke in that hospital bed. His hands limp, skin gray, eyes glassy. How many more blood sugar crashes could he survive? Maria called early the next morning. Dad had flooded the judge with letters, military endorsements, a parenting class certificate, a plan for future medical care from a respected doctor. On paper, he looked perfect. Outside the courthouse, people were already gathering. Veterans in uniform, families waving flags, cameras flashing. Dad had turned our custody case into a political rally. Inside, it was even worse. The courtroom was packed with his supporters. Ribbons, pins, applause when he walked in wearing his dress uniform. Maria squeezed my hand. Just breathe. The judge entered. She reminded everyone this wasn't about politics. It was about 2 children. But her eyes lingered on the crowd like she already knew this was going to be impossible. Then Dad unveiled his final surprise. A decorated officer, Colonel Daniels, his old commanding officer, testified that Dad was a hero, that he'd saved lives, that any parenting lapses were the result of wartime trauma, not character. Maria objected. The judge allowed it. Then came a parade of character witnesses. A fellow vet who said Dad was honorable. His landlord who said he paid early. His new boss who said he was reliable and steady. They all painted him as a man unfairly attacked by an unforgiving system. Then it was Maria's turn. She didn't waste time. She laid out Zeke's full hospital records. Every crash, every ER visit, every missed insulin dose. Then she showed pictures. Zeke's body, thinner and grayer in each one. You could almost watch him disappear under Lila's care. And then, the surprise that we didn't see coming. A nurse from one of Zeke's first hospital visits had kept personal notes. Notes about bruises, about malnutrition, about Zeke telling her he hadn't eaten, that he'd missed his insulin. The notes were dated before any of this custody drama began, before lawyers, before petitions. Just raw truth on paper. Dad's lawyer lost it, claimed the nurse violated privacy, said she was biased, called her unprofessional. But it was too late. The judge saw it. The truth had surfaced. Dr. Patel came back to court one last time. This time, in person. She brought Zeke's blood work, his brain scans, the proof of damage from the coma. She didn't sugarcoat anything. If he goes back, she said, this could kill him. Dad's medical expert tried to brush it off. Said the damage was reversible. Said Dad already had a plan for premium care. But Dr. Patel wasn't having it. She brought numbers. Stats on kids with repeated diabetic ketoacidosis. Mortality rates. Permanent organ damage. Then the child advocate spoke, Mrs. Chun. She'd met with Zeke several times. Her voice was calm, but every word landed like a hammer. She talked about Zeke's panic during Dad's visits. His nightmares. How his blood sugar spiked whenever Dad was in the room. And then she said the thing that changed everything. For the first time, Tommy told me he feels safe. That's when Dad finally cracked. He stood up and started monologuing again. Talked about combat, survival, discipline. Said civilians didn't understand what it took to raise resilient kids in a world like this. The judge warned him to sit down or face contempt. He did, but the mask was slipping. Even some of his supporters shifted in their seats. Then Maria called me. I took the stand one last time. My legs shook, but I didn't sit back down. Dad's lawyer objected, said I'd already testified. The judge allowed it, said I could respond to new evidence. Maria asked about my journal. I told them why I started writing, because I was scared my memory wouldn't be enough. That if I didn't write it down, nobody would believe me. I talked about finding Zeke unconscious, screaming for Lila, trying to call 911 and having the phone ripped from the wall. And Dad, he told me to man up, I said. Said Lila made him strong. Time she made us strong, too. Dad's lawyer came at me hard. Said Maria had coached me. Said I made it up. That the dates didn't match perfectly. I told him about the fear. About how Dad made me believe foster care would be worse. About being terrified of breaking up our family and being blamed for it. He tried to spin it. Tried to say I was just scared, not truthful. So I told them how I held my brother while his lips turned blue. How I thought he died in my arms. The room went quiet. Even the judge looked shaken. A few people in the gallery, people who'd shown up to support Dad, wiped their eyes. The story was breaking apart. During the next recess, I heard arguing in the hall. Dad's veteran friends, some of them were mad. They'd come to support a hero, not cover for a negligent parent. When court resumed, Dad's lawyer gave his closing. Said mistakes had been made, but also said redemption was possible. That families could heal. Then Maria spoke. She didn't perform. She just laid it out. The missed doses, the hospitalizations, the emotional warfare, the manipulation. She asked the judge one question. What happens next time his blood sugar crashes? The judge called for one last break to decide. We waited. I sat between Maria and Mrs. Johnson, staring at the floor. Dad's side of the courtroom had thinned out. The flags were gone. The supporters? Fewer. When the judge returned, she looked exhausted. She started by saying this wasn't easy. That both sides had made compelling arguments. That service and sacrifice mattered. But service, she said, doesn't excuse harm. And it doesn't replace responsibility. She listed the facts. Medical neglect. Missed opportunities to act. A pattern of intimidation. She found Grandma unfit. Called the abuse and alcoholism well documented. She acknowledged Dad's recent efforts, but said they came after the damage had already been done. And she was especially concerned by how he tried to sway public opinion instead of protecting his children. Then came the ruling. Permanent custody awarded to Children's Services. No unsupervised contact with Grandma. Dad's parental rights intact, for now, but all visits supervised. Any future custody request would require counseling, classes, and court approval. Dad stood up and shouted. Called it a disgrace. Said the system hated veterans. Said the judge was biased. Security started to move, but his lawyer got him to sit back down. He turned to me and looked straight into my eyes. There was no sadness there. Just rage. This isn't over, he whispered. And I believed him. Maria hugged me after. Mrs. Johnson squeezed my shoulder. Told me I was brave. Outside the courthouse, the protest signs were gone. Only a few people lingered. I don't remember the drive home. Just sitting in the back seat, staring out the window. Zeke was going to live. And for the first time in a long time. So was I. The flags were still there, but the fight was gone. The slogans didn't work anymore. This wasn't about patriotism. This was about kids nearly dying. The call stopped. The threats ended. Even Dad's diehard supporters started sending quiet apologies. Zeke and I were placed in a therapeutic foster home. The couple running it had experience with trauma and actual medical training. They understood diabetes. They had protocols, routines. I slept through the night for the first time in months. But Dad tried one last time. He sent a letter, not to the court, to me. Said he forgave me. Said he hoped I'd forgive him someday. Said we could reconnect when I turned 18, without the court interfering. I showed it to my therapist. She called it what it was, manipulation. We talked about the difference between guilt and love, and how protecting someone you care about doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you brave. 6 months passed. Zeke was stable. His blood sugar was managed. His weight came back. His laughter did too. The damage from the coma was minimal, but he'd need a little extra help now and then. Still, he was a kid again. Not a symptom. I started high school in a new district. No one knew my story. I wasn't that military kid, or the one who betrayed his father. I was just me. It felt like freedom. Eventually, Dad stopped fighting. His lawyer told the court he was focusing on career matters and wouldn't pursue custody again. Maybe the legal fees crushed him. Maybe his new job didn't like the headlines. Either way, the silence felt like relief. Grandma went into rehab. I didn't expect much from that, but at least she wasn't around other vulnerable kids anymore. The permanent foster family helped us make new traditions. They taught us that being strong didn't mean being silent. That discipline didn't have to mean fear. That care didn't have to come with pain. I still have nightmares. Sometimes I wake up hearing boots in the hall, or the sound of Grandma falling over furniture. But then I remember, Zeke's safe. His insulin's in the fridge. No one's passed out on the floor. The last time I saw Dad was 2 years later, grocery store. He looked older, smaller. Our eyes met across the produce aisle. For a second, I thought he might come over. He didn't. He turned and walked away. And that was the moment I realized. I wasn't afraid anymore. Zeke doesn't remember much about Grandma's house now. Just that he has diabetes, that it once almost killed him, and that we live with people who actually care. He thinks about soccer and math, not survival. I still keep the journal I wrote during those months, not to relive it, but to remember. To remind myself that telling the truth wasn't betrayal. That love isn't supposed to hurt. Maria still checks in. She says our case changed policy. That now, when a soldier cries bias, the system still checks the fridge, the hospital records, the bruises. The Johnsons sent a Christmas card last year. They'd fostered 3 more kids since us. Said I taught them what courage really looks like. They said my old room's still ready. I'm applying to colleges now. I want to study social work. My guidance counselor said my essay on resilience made her cry. She doesn't even know the half of it. Zeke, he wants to be a doctor. Like Dr. Patel, the one who saved his life. He volunteers at diabetes camps now. Teaches little kids how to use their insulin pens. Says strength isn't pretending you're not sick. Strength is staying alive to chase your dreams. Sometimes I wonder what Dad tells himself about losing us. Maybe he still thinks he's the victim. Maybe he still blames the system, or Maria, or me. But I don't think about it much anymore. Because now, we survived. We're safe. We're together. And that's more than I ever dared hope for back when Dad used his uniform like a weapon. The scars are still there. But so is the truth. And for once, the truth won.